LL Cool J was back on top, but in a different way. By the early 90s, he was no longer the undisputed alpha in a now much larger and increasingly competitive scene. However, he was the only one from the early to mid 80s who was still relevant in the 90s, thereby pointing to the possibilities of longevity in a young genre that was constantly evolving. But LL was still trying to figure out his career path. The singles he released in the latter half of 1991 indicated a more polished, new jack swing leaning approach, and he began his first serious venture into Hollywood. But those singles failed to catch fire, and it was evident that James Todd Smith perhaps needed a lot more time behind the screen to get to the level of that other Mr. Smith. Meanwhile, the rap world was changing. Again. And an interview with Yo MTV Raps hinted at what LL's next album, his fifth one, was going to sound like.
I'm so tired of the pop rap. It's taking me to my brink. I gotta admit it. I always said I loved it, I hate it, man. I can't stand the pop rap. It's taking me to my brink, and I'm tired of it. On my next album, I'm gonna blow up. You know why I'm gonna blow up? Because I'm not coming with that popness, man. I'm sick of that pop.
As far back as the early 80s, there were rappers who delivered their lyrics in an aggressive or confrontational style backed by speaker rattling beats. As a result, Run DMC is sometimes cited as the first hardcore rap act. But then others took it further. Schoolie D, Ice-T, and NWA attracted attention for not just the way they rapped, but what they rapped about. Drug dealing, gang warfare, prostitution, and police brutality were some of the common themes. Ice-T preferred to call this style reality rap. The media went for another term, gangsta rap. By the early 1990s, it was clear that this strain was now the dominant force in hip-hop, and that sentiment was enforced by the enormous success of Dr. Dre's The Chronic, which dropped in December 1992. It was now about being rough, rugged, and raw, and if LL Cool J had any chance of thriving in this climate, he had to come correct. 14 Shots to the Dome, an allusion to every song in the album being a potential hit, was his bold answer.
The days of radio are gone. This is the days of 14 shots in 93 in my album, and it's not going back. It's just more of a street-orientated, grounded, root album.
14 Shots to the Dome was released on March 30th, 1993, with How I'm Comin' as the album's first single, as well as its first track.
First single is How I'm Coming, and it was completely appropriate, you know, how I'm coming musically, how I'm coming visually, you know, how I'm coming in terms of my attitude, and the attitude of the album. This is how I'm coming, you know, rough and real.
And back then, the lyrics that fans heard were rather uncharacteristic of Uncle L.
Stick the steel in your mouth. Pop, 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 pop. Lights out.
The very next number, Bucking Him Down, is as self-explanatory as one can get. What's up with the gangster posturing? There was a time when LL could be hardcore just by spitting one clever bar after the other. He didn't need the gun talk at all. Now he sounded just like any other East Coast rapper hopping on the gangster rap bandwagon. And even some of the standard brag rap numbers sounded so ordinary. There's nothing about A Little Something, Soul Survivor, or Ain't No Stopping This that would require anyone to rewind and hear a lyric or two in amazement. In addition, the reggae-tinged Diggy Down is rather embarrassing, as LL wails from one line to the next about societal ills with little to no sense of cohesion. Whatever happened to that considerably convincing social commentator of Mama Said Knock You Out? To answer that question, he was obviously on vacation. It isn't a complete lyrical washout though. Half the time, LL Cool J shows that he still has the chops. Stand By Your Man is a danceable R&B number in which LL espouses steadfastness in romantic relationships. He does some incredible tongue twisting in Straight from Queens. He bares his soul as he narrates his entire career up to that point in Funkadelic Relic. he admirably makes an implicit statement about hip-hop music being the strongest hope for the inner city in All We Got Left Is the Beat. Lords of the Underground join him in the high-energy NFA, No Frontin' Allowed. And LL proves why he's one of the unheralded punster greats in Pink Cookies in a Plastic Bag Getting Crushed by Buildings, as he uses rappers' names to construct his verses in his grand euphemism for sex. But Backseat, the B-side to Pink Cookies, is by far the best thing on the album, riding the same slow R&B groove that Monica would use for a hit Don't Take It Personal, Just One of Them Days. LL basically creates a tutorial about how to dirty talk without uttering a single curse word or anything sexually explicit. It's ingenious, it's utterly impressive, and it's a worthy precursor to the smash single that would follow 2 years later. And production-wise, LL is still covered. Marley Marl is on board again, this time joined prominently by QD3, the son of Quincy Jones, and yes, Bobcat, who had by now had work with Tupac and former NWA members on his resume. LL couldn't go wrong with 3 top-notch hip-hop producers, and overall they did a really good job, backing up LL with some really dense funk and soul landscapes. Some of it does feel standard though, as the music is awfully typical of East Coast music circa 1993. Ultra-thick bass lines that seem to drown out virtually any other sound in the beat. But the important thing is that they give LL Cool J's hectic lyrics the buoyancy they need, especially when they border on the trite and forced. Besides, the album is not entirely free from curveballs. Bobcat throws one at the end with Crossroads, supporting LL's rhymes of doom and gloom with classical-styled soaring strings and choral vocals. To say that it's an absolute delight to hear is a gross understatement. According to Bobcat, it took about 105 tracks to record Crossroads, and he used a full harmonic orchestra for the song. Left entirely to him, Crossroads should have been the first single, primed to not only sustain the momentum of Mama Said Knock You Out, but also take LL to the next level of his music career. Marley Marl, still in charge, went with How I'm Comin' instead. In fact, Crossroads was never released as a single. That decision became a microcosm of the singles and album's fate. How I'm Comin' and Backseat missed the top 40. Stand By Your Man, which didn't chart at all, ironically would be nominated for the same Grammy Award in 1994 that Mama Said Knock You Out won in 1992, only to lose to Let Me Ride by Dr. Dre. Ultimately, not as many people were impressed with LL Cool J getting wrecked for the 9 tray. 14 Shots to the Dome became the first LL album to fall short of the platinum mark. The truth is, LL was a hard rapper, but never a hardcore rapper. At best, he was a tough-talking teenager b-boy style in radio. Heck, he hadn't even been that hard since that album. So, the switch to street seemed sudden and jarring, and many people were put off by it. Granted, some tracks hit the target, but others either grazed or missed entirely. Overall, 14 Shots to the Dome was LL's first official bomb.